So here's the question. Can you really get a flower that looks as beautiful as this from something as weird and ugly looking as this? Actually, yes you can. It's called a dahlia tuber, and we're gonna learn about planting up dahlias today. So if you're anything like me this time of year, you start to see these in some of your big box stores or maybe even your local nurseries, and you think, oh my gosh, those flowers are gorgeous. I want those in my yard. I know that's how I have always felt, and I can't help but add a few more dahlias to my collection every year. So today I'm going to show you how I'm going to just pre-sprout these dahlias in some gallon containers, and then I'm actually going to plant one in a pot just for an experiment to see how that goes as well. And so let me show you some ins and outs of dahlias. So this is my third year, my third season, really getting more interested in dahlias and learning more about them. In fact, in the fall, I actually did kind of an experiment in my yard where I left some of my dahlia tubers in the ground here in Zone 8B in Oregon to see if some of them would come back for me in the spring or winter over. And then I actually dug some of the dahlias as well and divided them. So I'm going to link that video down below for you. And I do have the dahlias that I kept, and I am, trying to pre-sprout those and see how successful I was at my dividing of my dahlias this year. But I also scooped up some new ones from my local hardware store, basically. And so, they're really they're not very expensive usually, and the cool thing about them is that in some zones, warmer zones, they will overwinter, and sometimes in cooler zones they can either act like an annual, or you can dig them up and try to preserve the tubers. So let me show you what to look for when you're shopping for these kind of plants. One thing that you want to pay attention to when you're shopping for dahlias is to, hopefully there's a clear bag so you can really kind of inspect the tuber. So what you're looking for are tubers that are not squishy or mushy or feel moist. You can also smell them. I know that's weird, but if it has like a mildewy smell, that means it's not going to be any good, right? It's too wet. But you also want to make sure they're not too dry and shriveled up looking. Now they will appear kind of shriveled up, but when they're really, really rock hard, or they look like they've really lost all moisture within this, it's basically like a bulb, right? A tuber, then that could tell you that maybe you want to dig around in that bin and try to find maybe a different one. Now, if you can't see in the bag, then there's really no way to know, but hopefully you're shopping at a reputable place. I know some places like Costco, if you actually open the bags and turns out the dahlias don't look like, the tubers don't look any good, sometimes you can take them and exchange them and things like that. So, but if you do have the clear bag, that's kind of what you want to look for. Not too wet, not too dry, somewhere in between. So I got a pretty good variety this year. I'm going to go ahead and open up this bag since I've been here yapping on about it. And let's see what one of these dahlia tubers looks like. In order for the tuber to sprout, it has to have three things. It has to have the body of the tuber, the neck, and a growth point, or a growth point. So let's see what these look like. So most of the time they'll come in like kind of a bigger clump, and if you're lucky, I think the bags I got actually came with 2 clumps each. So let's take a look and see. Like this one here, there's nothing in here. It's that's not going to be any good. A lot of times you can see where the plant was in the previous year. So you can see this is the stalk last year where they cut this off. And so I know that I want to plant this tuber, with this side pointing up. But, you can kind of see that that one's not going to be any good. So if you feel confident, or when you get more confident, you can actually groom these up a little bit before planting them. If you're not sure, then just go ahead and plant the whole thing. Try to look for kind of the top side of the tuber and, point that side up. But you're really looking for like the body of the tuber and the neck to be intact. So here's another one where the neck has broken. It's probably not this particular one. It probably isn't any good, but hopefully, there'll be some in here where the neck is still attached and you'll still get those growth points. The other one that was in that particular bag, I just kind of wanted to show you here. So that's what that one looks like. Again, you can see where the plant was last year. And hopefully this one looks not as good as the other one did. So hopefully we'll see. I mean, that's kind of why I like to do this process a little bit early. So I do this 4 to 6 weeks before my last frost. And that way I can see if the tubers are viable, to see which ones are going to sprout and which ones aren't. The other thing I do, and this is, again, this is just me, but I keep this medium that they're in, just to kind of save a little bit. If it doesn't look, you know, like it looks like it still has some life left in it, I save it, and that way I can use it when I dig up the Dahlia tubers to store them for next year. Couple of these tubers that I have gotten planted. Some of them are sprouting, some of them aren't. And then I'm going to go ahead and get a couple of these planted up today. The other thing I would recommend when you are planting these up is to, you know, label these. So here you see I have this one labeled, and I've had this one in a pot for probably 2 weeks. And you can see it's doing really, really well. So this one is definitely going to be a good performer for me. I already know. And once I do see green, I can go ahead and continue to water this. Normally what you want to do is when you pot up the tuber, you don't want to water it. I usually water it once. I water it in, and then that's it. And then you want to put them in a warm, kind of sunny location. Warmth is really key to get them to sprout. So they don't need light necessarily until they start to have the green sprouts, but then you want to get them someplace sunny so they can get the most nutrients that they need. Also at this point, I do start to include some fertilizer. So usually about a half strength fertilizer, just any basic fertilizer. You can also sprinkle in some starter fertilizer when you pot them up if you have that available. I just didn't have any this time. So here's a couple examples. These are the ones that I actually dug up last year and tried to divide, and you can see there's not much going on. Although now that I'm looking at this one, hold on, maybe I spoke too soon. I do see something in this one. Gardener Joy. It's very hard to see, but there's a little bit of green right there. Matches my green braces. Anyway, so yay, that's really exciting. Hopefully this one will be viable. So I know if they don't have any labels, they're the ones I dug up from last year. And honestly, I lost the labels. I don't know exactly what I dug up from the previous year. So I've got a few of these dahlias. I'm going to get potted up in some 5-gallon you know, pots just that I've recycled from different nursery containers that I've had. And then I do have one pot that I'm going to pot outside and try just growing a dahlia in a pot. I thought it'd be a good experiment because I'm kind of running out of space in my garden beds. And for any of you guys that have like smaller spaces, if you have like a deck or a balcony or something, it's nice to know whether, you know, dahlias are something that can grow successfully in a large pot. And I'm going to guess that they're going to be fine and do really well, but I'm going to try that experiment this year. Also, be sure to hang on to this part of the package, or at least I like to try to hang on to it and put it in my gardening journal. Or if you have like a little notebook, that's what I use for my journal so that I know what varieties I had so that I can see what worked and what didn't. All right, so now that I've got my label made, I'm going to go ahead and fill up a pot about halfway with regular potting mix. And so I've got that right here. And then I'm going to go ahead and place my dahlia tuber. And I just err on the side of the little, if the tubers look a little pointy, of kind of pointing those downward. And then I'm going to go ahead and backfill the rest of this with, again, just regular potting medium. And I want to give it a tap just to make sure that that dirt is kind of settled around the different tuber sections. A little bit more. And like I said, I'll probably go ahead and water this in today, but then I won't water it again until I see some sort of evidence of some sprouting or some growth. So that's a really easy way to pot up your tubers. I'm just going to put this in a warm spot and then do that one more time with this one. And then I have a couple more I'm going to pot up today as well. This is the dahlia. This is the painted madam. This is the one I want to try to grow in the pot. So let me go ahead and open this up and let's take a look and see how these tubers look. Also, just so you can see them a little bit more up close. And sometimes they look really different. So here's one. Oh, this is a great example. So see this growth point already? I know that this tuber is going to do really well. And so that one looks really good. And this one also looks pretty good. It almost looks like a pair of lungs. Does this not look like a lungs and like a, okay, anatomical? Okay, maybe it's just me. Anyway, so there's two. That's probably all there is in here. And like I said, I usually just keep this and reuse it. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one that I know is going to be viable in my pot, and then I'm going to put this one in just a regular nursery pot. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. Dahlias get really big, so I want to make sure this has a lot of room in my potted area. All right, and then the last one I'm going to be potting up today is this one here. So this one is called Blue Wish. And when I was picking out varieties, here's another tip I have for you is really think about what kind of bouquets you want to build. So I did, let me show you in totality the ones that I purchased new. Let's see, I did kind of 3 warmer color varietals. So I know that these 3 together in a bouquet are going to be just stunning. This one also has quite a bit of pinks as well, so I could also mix it up with these 3. So these were the other 3 that I kind of picked out that are all in those pink and lavender hues. Or, you know, I could just do whatever. But when you're picking out your tubers, maybe think about the floral arrangement that you'd like to put together from, you know, all this hard work that you're putting in. All right, so I just wanted to show you guys, these are some of the dahlia tubers I dug from my yard last year, and you can see this one's already getting ready to sprout again, so I want to be sure to pot that one up. Here's another one where I think it's going to be fine. This is a good example of the eye, the neck here is intact, and then the bigger tuber. So this one actually has some eyes right here, and this is where I cut it. So this is where I divided this tuber to try to get more inventory, I guess, this year. And these are some of the other tubers that I dug and tried to divide. So I'm going to go ahead and get as many of these potted up as I can. Now, I do have a couple other large containers that I might try for these. And if I wanted to wait a little bit longer, I could just go ahead and pot these up, you know, outdoors in the garden as long as it's past my last frost date, but it's not quite yet. And I like this method to check the viability before putting them in the ground. So anyway, I'm hoping for lots of success with this, with these digging and dividing that I did last fall. Hey guys, well the sun is coming in awkwardly here in the afternoon in my Oregon greenhouse today, so I'm going to call it a day for my video. Hopefully it was helpful for you guys. Hopefully you were able to check out, you know, dahlias and maybe get some new information. And I would say, you know, if you've never tried growing this type of plant, just give it a shot, give it a try. What do you have to lose? I mean, it's definitely can be worth the payoff if you want to give it a try. These flowers are gorgeous, and you will have many happy blooms this summer. And if it doesn't end up working out, then that's okay too. I think that's going to be it for today's video. I hope that you learned something new about planting dahlias today, or maybe just had a little bit of a refresher on this really beautiful plant. It's a really fun one to grow. I would say if you've never tried growing dahlias, give it a shot. Get yourself the bag and just stick them in some dirt, see what happens, and who knows, you could be enjoying some really beautiful blooms all summer long. I hope you liked today's video. If you did, could you give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel? And if you need me, I'll be hanging out in my Oregon yard. See you guys next time. Bye.